15 PS2 games that were way ahead of their time. Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. Metal Gear Solid 2 launched in 2001 and instantly felt futuristic. Gameplay blended stealth, tactical espionage, and advanced enemy AI. Guards reacted to footprints, radioed for backup, investigated noises intelligently, and even adapted to player habits. Mechanically, it pushed realism further than almost any game at the time. The story follows Solid Snake and later Raiden, uncovering a massive conspiracy involving artificial intelligence and information control. But what truly made it ahead of its time was its theme. The game explored digital censorship, manipulation of truth, and AI-driven society long before social media dominated real life. In 2001, this felt like sci-fi. Today, it feels almost prophetic. Shadow of the Colossus. Released in 2005, Shadow of the Colossus felt like nothing else on PS2. The gameplay removed traditional enemies and dungeons. Instead, players explored a vast, empty landscape hunting 16 massive colossi. Each battle was a puzzle. Climb, grip, strike weak points. The scale alone was breathtaking. The story follows Wander, a young man who enters a forbidden land to resurrect a girl named Mono. To do so, he must defeat the colossi, unaware of the moral consequences. The game's minimalist design, emotional ambiguity, and cinematic presentation were revolutionary. It trusted players to interpret meaning themselves. Years later, many modern art games would follow this exact blueprint. Black released in 2006 near the end of the PS2 lifecycle and looked impossible for the hardware. Gameplay focused on explosive firefights, destructible environments, and realistic weapon sound design that gave guns weight and impact. Walls splintered, debris flew, and levels felt alive. The story follows Sergeant Jack Keller recounting a covert operation gone wrong, structured through interrogation flashbacks. While the narrative was straightforward military action, the presentation felt cinematic and modern. Many early PS3 shooters didn't look significantly better. Black proved the PS2 still had untapped power, and it ended the console's era on an explosive high note. Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 arrived on PS2 in 2005 and changed action horror forever. The over-the-shoulder camera created intense immersion, while precise aiming and dynamic enemy encounters raised combat depth. Instead of fixed angles, players had full control, making every encounter feel personal. The story follows Leon S. Kennedy on a mission to rescue the U.S. president's daughter from a mysterious cult in rural Spain. The tone blended horror, action, and camp in a way that felt cinematic and modern. Nearly every third-person shooter released afterward borrowed from this formula. Even today, the camera style remains industry standard. That's how far ahead it was.
Why are these people? What are they planning?
Devil May Cry 3: Dante's Awakening. Devil May Cry 3 launched in 2005 and perfected high-skill action combat. Gameplay emphasized stylish combos, weapon switching, and a ranking system that rewarded creativity instead of button mashing. Players could master multiple fighting styles, dramatically increasing depth and replayability. The story is a prequel, following a younger Dante as he confronts his twin brother Virgil over control of a demonic tower that connects the human and demon worlds. Their rivalry drives the emotional core of the game. At a time when most action titles were simple and linear, Devil May Cry 3 demanded precision and mastery. Its combat philosophy directly influenced modern character action games like today's combo-heavy fighters. Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 released in 2001 and redefined psychological horror. Gameplay focused on slow exploration, limited combat, puzzle solving, and oppressive atmosphere rather than action. The fog-covered town masked hardware limitations while intensifying tension. The sound design, distant sirens, distorted radio static, created constant unease. The story follows James Sunderland, who receives a letter from his deceased wife asking him to meet her in Silent Hill. As he searches the town, he encounters manifestations of guilt and trauma, including the iconic Pyramid Head. Unlike typical horror games of the era, Silent Hill 2 wasn't about monsters. It was about grief and repression. Its emotional storytelling and symbolic design were years ahead of mainstream horror trends. SOCOM 2 U.S. Navy SEALs. SOCOM 2 arrived in 2003 and quietly helped pioneer console online gaming. Gameplay emphasized tactical squad-based combat, voice communication, and coordinated team strategies. Matches required patience and communication rather than fast reflexes alone. The story campaign followed elite Navy SEAL operations across global conflict zones, but its real impact was online multiplayer. At a time when online console gaming was rare, SOCOM 2 built dedicated communities and competitive clans. It may not be flashy today, but it laid groundwork for modern tactical shooters. Okami. Released in 2006, Okami stood out instantly because of its art style. The gameplay combined action combat, puzzle solving, and exploration, but its defining feature was the celestial brush mechanic. Players paused time to draw symbols that altered the world, summoning wind, cutting enemies, restoring nature. The story follows Amaterasu, the sun goddess in wolf form, tasked with cleansing a corrupted Japan from the demon Orochi and spreading life back into the land. Inspired by traditional Japanese ink paintings, Okami chose stylization over realism, and that decision made it timeless. Long before indie games embraced artistic direction over graphical power, Okami proved visuals could age beautifully when driven by strong design. Burnout 3. Takedown. Burnout 3 released in 2004 and transformed arcade racing into controlled chaos. Gameplay encouraged aggressive driving. Players earned boosts by causing near misses and crashing rivals in spectacular slow motion. The takedown mechanic rewarded destruction rather than clean racing. There's no heavy narrative here, just escalating tournaments across global tracks. But the presentation was revolutionary. Dynamic crash cameras, licensed soundtracks, and seamless online multiplayer gave it a modern feel. It blended speed, spectacle, and replay value perfectly. Many arcade racers since have tried to recreate that adrenaline loop, but few matched its balance of risk and reward. Gran Turismo 4 released in 2004 and delivered realism on an unprecedented scale. Gameplay focused on simulation driving physics, precise car handling, and an enormous roster of over 700 licensed vehicles. Detailed car models and real-world tracks made it feel closer to professional motorsport than arcade racing. Unlike story-driven titles, the progression centered on earning licenses, competing in tournaments, and collecting vehicles, simulating a real racing career. The ambition alone was staggering for PS2 hardware. Many racing simulators today still follow the foundation Gran Turismo 4 built. It wasn't flashy, but it prioritized authenticity years before hyper-realistic driving games became common on modern consoles. Grand Theft Auto 3. Grand Theft Auto 3 didn't just release in 2001. It reshaped gaming forever. The gameplay introduced a fully 3D open world where players could freely explore Liberty City, take missions at their own pace, steal vehicles, and interact with a living environment. NPC routines, dynamic weather, and radio stations made the world feel alive. The story follows Claude, a silent criminal betrayed during a bank robbery. Rising through the ranks of Liberty City's underworld, he works for rival gangs while seeking revenge. Before GTA 3, most games were linear. After it, open-world design became the industry standard. This wasn't just ahead of its time, it defined the next decade of game development. God of War. God of War launched in 2005 and instantly raised the bar for cinematic action games. Gameplay centered around brutal combo-based combat using the blades of chaos, fluid platforming, and large-scale boss battles. The camera seamlessly zoomed and shifted without visible cuts, creating a movie-like experience. The story follows Kratos, a Spartan warrior betrayed by Ares, the god of war. Driven by vengeance, Kratos battles through Greek mythology to confront the gods themselves. What made it ahead of its time was its production value. Epic scale, emotional backstory, and cinematic presentation rarely seen in that era. It felt like a blockbuster film you could control. Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X launched in 2001 as the first fully voiced entry in the franchise. Gameplay featured the conditional turn-based battle system, allowing strategic party swaps mid-fight. The sphere grid progression system offered flexible character growth. The story follows Tidus, a blitzball athlete transported to the world of Spira, where he joins Summoner Yuna on a pilgrimage to defeat a monstrous entity called Sin. Themes of sacrifice, faith, and destiny carried emotional weight rarely seen in RPGs at the time. The cinematic cutscenes, voice acting, and orchestral score elevated storytelling expectations across the genre. It felt like interactive cinema before that phrase was widely used. Metal Gear Solid 3: Snake Eater. Released in 2004, Snake Eater pushed realism further than its predecessor. Gameplay introduced camouflage systems, stamina management, hunting wildlife for survival, and treating battlefield injuries. The jungle environment forced adaptive stealth strategies rather than simple pattern memorization. The story follows Naked Snake during the Cold War as he attempts to rescue a scientist and confront his mentor, the boss. The emotional climax reshaped the series' mythology. Few games at the time blended survival mechanics, stealth gameplay, and cinematic storytelling so seamlessly. It felt complex and mature in ways most early 2000s titles simply weren't. Eco launched in 2001 with minimal dialogue and maximum emotional impact. Gameplay revolved around guiding a mysterious girl named Yorda through a vast castle while holding her hand, solving environmental puzzles, and defending her from shadow creatures. That simple hand-holding mechanic created emotional attachment rarely seen at the time. The story follows a horned boy, Eco, exiled to a fortress because of superstition. After meeting Yorda, the two attempt to escape together from a dark queen who wants to possess Yorda's body. Eco trusted atmosphere and silence more than exposition. Years before indie storytelling became mainstream, Eco showed that subtlety could be more powerful than spectacle. If this made you miss the PS2 era, hit like so more gamers see this.